I want to follow up on something that we had you on the show about 6 weeks ago or so. And the big issue of the day was unemployment benefits. And you made the point that those are not constitutionally authorized. I want to ask you vis-a-vis some of the entitlement programs, Medicare and Social Security in particular. You were pressed on this a little bit on CBS yesterday, and I want you to expand a little bit. Do you think those programs are constitutionally authorized? Should the government be in those businesses?
You know, our position on both those programs has been made very clear throughout the campaign, and it's very difficult in a soundbite to, I guess, provide you a full description of where we're at on this. But it's very important that this country maintain fiscal solvency in order to ensure that the benefits that people have paid into, that those are honored. You know, my parents are Social Security recipients. In fact, they're almost exclusively dependent on Social Security and Medicare. And the utmost concern that I have is for the fiscal position of the country to ensure that we can continue to pay the benefits to those most dependent. But I think that we're being incredibly foolish if we think that the system can continue in the way it is. I mean, as of April of this year, the inlays to Social Security were outstripped by the outlays.
Right.
We've got net deficits running now.
So is there... Sorry, is there an immediate solution that you would like to see for Social Security then? Something if you come to Washington that you're going to put out there on the table day one?
There has to be a transition, and we will have to determine where that point is, where we transition out of the current system into something else. We're looking at all options. You know, we're looking at the option that was proposed by President Bush. We're looking at Representative Ryan's plan. It is absolutely critical that we look at all options. But, you know, frankly, where we're at as a nation is the federal government is broken.
Right.
And I think we have to look at transferring power back to the states in such a way that states can then look at the solutions that may be more appropriate. And ultimately, when you look at the Constitution and you evaluate what the plan was originally, it was for states to take on more power than the federal government, particularly in the areas such as those things that may promote the general welfare.
Right.
It was not a federal role.
Very quick.
I will tell you, I mean, what I want to make very clear is that it is very critical that we maintain the faith with those most dependent at this point, because we can't let our seniors out in the cold.
I want you to also ask you about some of your positions, because if you win the primary, if you're declared the winner, and then you would be the logical favorite in a Republican state. Some of your positions on Medicare, on Social Security, you've pointed out that Social Security, Medicare were not in the Constitution. The unemployment compensation bill that was up in the Senate, you said the unemployment compensation benefits, first of all, it's not constitutionally authorized. I think that's the first thing that's got to be looked at. So I do not favor their extension. Do you believe that programs like Social Security, Medicare, the unemployment compensation that were not enumerated in the Constitution, therefore are not legal or should not be mandated?
Well, I think that the first thing that you have to look at is the Constitution when you evaluate whether or not you pass something out of the Congress. But I think that what we all have to be aware of is that this nation is upside down fiscally. And anybody that sticks their head in the sand and says, look, we can't look at any of these programs, they're sacrosanct, they ignore the $130 trillion in future unfunded obligations that we're basically bankrupting the country with, the $13.3 trillion in absolute debt that we're faced with. Anybody that says that we can't look at these, whether it's out of again, this commitment to the entitlement state, or whether it's just out of plain ignorance or irresponsibility, I believe is doing a great disservice to the nation. But I do believe that the Constitution mandates that we transfer power from the feds back to the states. I mean, that really is where our focus has got to be, is making sure that we get things under local control. It's a way out of the fiscal crisis.
Mr. Miller, speaking of fiscal crises, the president is now speaking in the Rose Garden, so we're going to switch there, and to be continued. Thank you.